This is just fact. This isn't me flexing. There was like 5 labels that were trying to sign me after I released Canopy, my first album. It did well on iTunes. I think it hit Heat Seekers on Billboard, and so there was like a little bidding war, and Capitol actually wasn't part of it. It was like Reach, and then Sony, 300 Entertainment, which is crazy that 300 was interested at all. 300 is like Migos, Young Thug, Gunna, that type. Very successful label. Did not think they'd be interested in me, but yeah, some others. And Capitol actually happened because Marty, shout out Social Club Misfits and Marty for President. What's up? Marty was like, he was like, man, all these labels are hitting you now. What is Capitol offering? And I was like, nobody from Capitol has hit me. He's like, what? He was like, hold on. And so he like, apparently he sends Treetops from the Canopy album to his A&R. And like within 15 minutes, his A&R is like contacting me like, hey, like I think we should get coffee, whatever. I'm like, whoa, that was wild, you know? So it was a weird situation because I had like with a big label, it's just a label. It's just a business deal. With the independent labels, Reach, Reflection Music Group, it's like, it feels more personal, right? And I had these, as we've already discussed, these really good friendships at both of these labels. And it kind of felt like, it felt like if I chose one, then that would be like choosing one friend over the other, you know? And that, I didn't, Capitol was like Switzerland or Sweden or whichever one is neutral. I was like, I'm just going to take this like deal that doesn't have any kind of connotation at all. It's just like paperwork. We're just doing a deal, you know? That was definitely the main driving factor.
Okay.
As for picking Capitol versus the indie labels, picking Capitol versus the other major labels that were in play was Capitol's deal was better. Their head A&R he is just a much better A&R in every way. Like, he makes the label seem more attractive. He meets you, dials into you as a person. His name is Brad. Shout out Brad. And so there wasn't really a comparison between the major labels. Capitol obviously stood out. The hardest decision was the one you just talked about, was Reflection, Reach, Capitol. I was stressed out. I was stressed about that. Like, Chelsea knows. But I ended up just choosing Capitol just to be like, I don't want any other connotation to be attached to me signing than just.
And when you signed with Capitol, was NF already blowing up with Capitol?
Yeah, he was. I'm trying to think of where he was in that process. He was definitely already big. I think Therapy. That's the name of the album. I think Therapy had already come out, which was like super huge. It was. Yeah, he was already big.
Okay,
he was big.
But then, like, when you were with Capitol, like, you left, which is surprising because, like, everything that went on with Kesha, and I feel like labels just kind of, like, have that in the contract that you can't leave. Right. But you were able to leave, and and you said the other night that was because it just wasn't working for you the way that it does for others. It's not that labels are bad, right, but it just wasn't working the way that it was with NF. Right. And that kind of, like, had my mind all twisted, and maybe it's just because I don't understand how labels work.
Right. Yeah.
Like break it down for like people like me that don't know anything about labels. Like, what does that mean for an artist, and how can it be good, and how can it not work out?
For sure. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons that choosing Capitol was the correct decision, because I can almost guarantee you, if I signed to another major, other than Capitol CMG, that they wouldn't have let me out of my contract. That's just like the standard thing that happens is, if you sign your name, I signed for 60 masters, essentially 60 songs, however I wanted to package that, whether it was EP, singles, album, some combination of that. I had to give them 60 songs. I did like 13, and in any other major label situation, they'd be like, you have to finish out your contract. Like, you can't, we're not going to let you leave. You know, sometimes they'll let somebody buy you out of the contract. Like, another label who has a lot of money can pay that label to release you. But it's the right belongs to the label once you sign it to release unless your contract says both parties have the right to renew or not renew. It's almost always just the label. I tried to get written into my contract to be both sides, but they were like, we're not doing that. And nobody ever does that unless you're like Taylor Swift or something. And so choosing Capitol was the right move because they, at the end of the day, they were just gracious. There was no like leverage that I had to be able to leave because I was unhappy with that year. They had all the leverage, but I had to have like multiple meetings with them because they really wanted me to like stay longer, but they said, you know, I had a lot of like cold hard facts. Like, I don't feel like the growth from my first album, which was independent, to my second album, which was on Capital CMG Solar, I feel like that was that growth was the trajectory I was already on, and that it would have essentially the same thing would have happened whether I was on the label or not. And they looked at the numbers and they essentially agreed and said, we never want to be a label where the artists feel like they're trapped. So, we're just going to release you with no strings attached. So that is not the typical story. And that's why it's not personal. It's not a horror story or anything like that. I'll never take that away from them. But I was unhappy with my deal on a label that is gracious and is willing to do that. So I'm like, how much worse is it in just a standard situation? As far as breaking it down for artists who don't understand, essentially signing a deal with a label is saying, I will give you ownership of what I have created. I will give you ownership of the revenue stream, of the lion's share, the vast majority, in effect, all of the ownership of what I have created, because I believe that your marketing ability and your branding ability is so strong that you're going to blow me up and multiply my platform to the point that I don't even miss the ownership that I gave you. If you can't say that with 100% certainty, then there's no reason to sign a deal. Now, that might sound very ominous, but that does work a lot. That, like, any artist that you see on a label that is successful, that's what happened. Pick anybody, Justin Bieber, Drake, it doesn't matter. Like Taylor, your favorite artist that's on a label, if they're truly successful, that's what happened. They gave up the ownership and the label did that. They knocked it out of the park. They multiplied their platform and marketed them so well that now their platform is 10, 20, 50, 100 times what it was before it was on the label. And that ownership that they gave up was completely worth the platform, the money, the ability to create better art because of the money that they put into the production side of the deal. It worked out, but that's the only thing. Like, you should not be signing a deal because of name recognition, just because it's, Bad Boy Records or TDE or whatever it is, that's not true. If TDE wants to sign you, sign every single time. It doesn't matter what the terms are. If Kendrick Lamar's label wants to sign you, sign it.
Would you sign today with TDE?
I would sign today with this is how my mind works. If you pulled a mask up over your head and you were really punched from TDE and you were like, sign this. We own everything. I'd be like, here you go.
It's like all of my branding with any tribe. Peace.
See you later.
Yeah. No.
And then I would FaceTime John, Michael, and Mowgli, and they would 100% support it, especially John.
Yes.
And John would be mad that I didn't like pitch him, but I actually probably would pitch him.
But not John?
Not what?
Did you say John and Mowgli would support?
Everybody would support.
Oh, all three. Okay.
But John would be mad that it wasn't him. Is what I'm saying, essentially. Yeah,
typical
that's not
Spider-Man.
The I would not sign. It would have to be good terms, but I would really want to sign that deal. But it would, if it wasn't good terms, I wouldn't sign it. That's just so everybody knows. But yeah, I see people sign for like brand recognition, or like their favorite artist is on that label. Or because there's this like prevailing thought that like independent is minor leagues, you know, D League, and signing to a major or just signing a deal in general is like MLB. You know what I mean? Now you're really doing it. Now you've made it. Now you're really a professional, and everything else is, you know, underneath that. And that's not true at all, you know. But and labels know that people think that, and they let people think that. I mean, I don't think that's evil or anything. I think that's just like, you know, business. I think like a lot, it makes sense. But the labels know that. They know. That's why they roll, like when they're courting you to sign a record deal, they roll out the red carpet. They'll take you to any restaurant. They had me out in underground like restaurants in Nashville that I didn't even know existed, with like all these artists there and stuff. I'm like, where are we right now? Like I've lived in Middle Tennessee since I was 9. Literally, where are we right now? Like I didn't even know this existed, you know. And kind of promise you the world, you know. And sometimes they believe they can deliver. I think with my situation, you know, I was told like, man, we see you as like an international like rap star, essentially, like bigger than everybody in Christian hip hop. Like somebody literally was like, we could get you to the top of Christian hip hop. That would take like maybe a year, but that's not even what we're looking at. We're looking at like making you like Kendrick Lamar. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't really think it was like hot air. I think they've had a lot of success, a ton of success in worship and in CCM. And then NF happened. And I think that made them be like, we can do anything. And that's not what happened. You know, but that was what the conversations were, you know. And again, these conversations are happening in these amazing spots with these amazing people, you know, didn't even know existed. The spots, I knew the people existed, and they just couldn't deliver on those, which is why I was unhappy. But that doesn't give me any legal leverage. Like, that's the thing. They can say all this stuff, and I think that's what like gets people wrapped up, is like, now, and even now I know, like, the only thing you should be listening to is what is in the contract. Like have a lawyer that understands that too, and be like, okay, they're telling you you're gonna be, you know, Drake, but what's in the contract? Do we have budget transparency? This is getting into the weeds and getting technical now, but still, budget transparency, length of term, and track record with your specific genre. If you're in a subgenre, your specific subgenre, because the similarities between me and NF end at rap. Like, we both rap, but rap is so big at this point that's not enough. Like, it has to be much closer, like musically, culturally, aesthetic, targeted fan base, demographic information. It has to be way more specified than just, okay, you guys both rap.
Hey y'all, we hope you loved this conversation. Here at Young Married Christian, we are on a mission to see a gospel-centered home made available for every single child in the foster care system. There are 400,000 kids in the foster care system, and there are 400,000 churches in America. Wow, that is crazy. This is absolutely a solvable problem, and we want to be a part of it. If you want to join us in that mission, text the word freedom to 833-370-1610.
833-370-1610. 833-370-1610.
I just did it.
And another thing you can do that is really helpful is to smash the like button on this video.
Smash it like Satan's face. Crush it like it's Lucifer's head.
It really helps us a ton, so smash that like button, subscribe to this channel.
That's it.
Smash the like button on this video.